Hey everybody, it's Brian Burns and welcome to this episode of the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the Sirusdecisions Summit that's coming up the second week of May. It's just a few weeks away. Also, really what's happening out there today in the world of marketing. So we have one of the analysts from Sirusdecisions, Cheri, coming on and sharing her viewpoints and her vantage point about what's working for clients. What are they facing? How technology is going to impact them as far as finding leads, finding intent, finding people in market, and then prioritizing them, where to spend the marketing dollars and what's working today. So let's get into the interview. Also, make sure you check out the last episode. It was really successful with Discover.org. Discover.org has been doing a lot of work in this area as well and has got a great capability. Also, Nudge.ai just released a new capability for kind of automating your account-based marketing strategy. So check out Nudge.ai. That's it. Let's get into the interview. Hey, Cheri, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me today. So I'm a senior research analyst at Sirusdecisions, and I've been there about 3 years now, and I enjoy every day of working at Sirusdecisions. It's so much fun that we have when we're coming up with new models and frameworks and research, but then also really getting hands-on with practitioners and bringing the vision or the theories that we have to life. But before joining Sirusdecisions, I worked at several technology companies in the Boston area, as well as a few communications and public relations agencies before that. So thinking about things like traditional public relations, but more on the digital and social media front as well.
And what are you seeing working for your clients today? What are they facing?
Our clients are facing a lot, and oftentimes I dream about the days of going back, and then I talk to clients and I'm like, they have so much that are going on right now. I think one of the big challenges people are facing is the constant barrage and conversation about new technologies and new channels. And it's coming at people from all angles. It can be what they're consuming on social media and hearing from vendors about what they need to be doing, but then also what they're hearing in the hallways of their companies where they're getting pressure from their peers to perhaps explore things that they know might not be right for their potential buyers. So I know it's a complex landscape that people are navigating right now, but I think the advent of new things has to challenge people, but that's why they also need to remain focused on what they know is right and what they need to discover in order to reach their buyers in the best way.
I mean, certainly PR has changed enormously in the last 5 years. How do you take them through that journey? Because there's so many new products. AI is, raising its head and being effective in certain markets. But how do you prioritize?
Well, I think the important thing to keep in mind is that there are trends that will work and there are trends that won't work. And I think whenever you're looking at your portfolio of approaches to engage people, there needs to be maybe 10 to 15% of your time, budget, and people that is spent experimenting on new things. So, Sirusdecisions is not of the mindset to only do what has worked in the past. Yeah. You also need to make sure that you're planning for the future and testing out new approaches, because you're right, artificial intelligence is out there. There's a lot of buzz around it. And actually, that's one of our main stage presentations at Summit this year, is really looking at what AI applications will work for the revenue engine in B2B. We know there are so many use cases in B2C, and it's great that those teams do a lot of the testing for us in a lot of ways, but we know that it's something that's on our clients' radar, so it's something that we're exploring as part of new research as well.
And how about on the PR side? Print media is almost non-existent. What do you see changing there as far as really being able to get the word out? All of these media companies are changing, pretty much day to day, putting up paywalls.
Yeah, not to date myself, but I remember my internship in early PR days having the big Bacon's book where you would go out and get the ad rates, and we would have to actually take out a tape measure and measure the placements that we made from our clients in order to calculate what the cost of that would be if you were paying for it as part of an ad rather than the media. So things have come so far from there. We're not faxing reporters anymore, but I think there are a few things to consider when it comes to the changing media landscape, but probably the most important one is the changing face of the media, the changing face of the influencers. It used to be, I would say, more straightforward, where you know who the reporters were at your top industry publications, you knew who the top reporters were at the top mainstream news media publications, and you knew how to get in touch with them. But now the people that are influential in the markets might not work for a major masthead. They could be people who have blogs on a very niche topic that get discovered and become sources for your potential buyers. So it's really more complex when it comes to identifying who is influential in the markets that you're trying to manage and get in front of.
And what's your specialty? Is it for larger companies? It must be, given where you work, but...
I would say my specialty myself isn't necessarily just for large companies. Sirusdecisions certainly works with a lot of very large organizations, but we also have a practice within the company that focuses on emerging growth companies, companies that are sub 50 million. But in my background, I worked with a lot of startups when I was working at PR agencies, and when I was working on the client side, or the dark side, as all my agency friends would say, the $30 to $50 million companies I was working at. So that was the sweet spot when it came to the job market and what was available around that time for me.
Yeah. And so how do you take somebody through this journey? Because I'm sure that you're working with the PR people, the communications people within your client base. They're struggling because they don't know what to do, what's working for other people. How do you guide them?
So I think the key in guiding our clients, whether it be on the brand side, the communication side, or even the demand creation or sales side, and the way we try to work with people is really first having a very good discovery with them. So understanding the complexity of what they have, because if someone comes to us and say, I have a problem with my demand management processes, there's a lot to unpack there. That can be related to the technology in place, the processes, the interlock with the sales team. Maybe it comes down to the agencies that they're using. So what we do is we really try to get in depth with them, understand what's going on, and then set up a cadence of work with them. So that could be things like doing inquiry calls with analysts, and it's probably going to be a variety of analysts if you think about the scenario I just laid out. And agencies are a specialty that I focus on. So maybe I'd be working with the people to review the contracts they have in place, understand how the relationships are working, identify gaps in their agency ecosystem. But then there's also homework on the client side. Unfortunately, we don't have magic wands that we can wave for our clients. So that could come down to reading research, having them have conversations with people, having them do audits of technology that they have in place. So I think the core in all of this is about cadence and consistency and always having that touch point back to us. But that's really where I would say our most successful clients are, is having a good cadence set up where they're hitting their milestones and marks, and then also making sure that they're always, exploring new opportunities as well with us.
And where do you see the whole PR, marketing, tech industry going in the next 5 years? I mean, is it going to be so fragmented that you're going to have multiple agencies, persona-based agencies, AI agencies, ABM agencies?
So I think the technology landscape isn't going to slow down. There's going to be continued investment from venture capital, and it's overwhelming. I know there are a lot of eye charts out there in the market that people can look at and say, oh gosh, what do I need to do? But, thinking about it from the practitioner's lens, and this is something that we really focus on with our technology coverage at Sirusdecisions, is not worrying so much about the categories of technology, but more focusing on the capabilities. So as a demand creation team, what do I need to do in order to be effective? And start at that level. List out the capabilities required of your team in order to be successful, and then see what agencies you need to plug in and what capabilities you require for technology. Because it's not easy enough to just say, oh, here are the 7 technology categories you need to go purchase. Because at the end of the day, if you go out there and do that, those 7 technology categories all overlap with one another. Yeah. There isn't a silver bullet technology out there that'll do it all, of course. But on the flip side, everyone is overlapping. And especially on the vendor side, vendors don't want to be in one category. They say, oh, but I do parts of this and that as well. So it's too challenging to have a list of categories be the solution. So we try to focus more on identifying what the capabilities are, understanding what technology you already have. And maybe at the end of the day, it's not about purchasing more technology. It's about getting more out of the investments that you already made. Maybe the reason you're not seeing return on your technology investments is because you haven't invested in training your people. And I think that's one thing that Steve Silver, a colleague of mine, and I spoke about at our technology exchange last fall was understanding more about the sales and marketing technology adoption spectrum. And that's something that we're both very passionate about, but we also see within our client base. Like if I think about content marketing technology, I was speaking with a client a few months ago and they said, here's what I need to do. We are thinking content marketing technology. And they went down this path of getting to a short list. And so I said, well, it sounds like there are probably 3 vendors that you might want to be considering here. And they said, oh, well, we can't use one of those vendors because we already use them. Well, if they have everything you need, why do you need to switch technologies? And at the end of the day, they didn't invest enough in training their people. So their people became frustrated, and the name of the technology vendor, which I won't name, became a swear word within their organization. So I think it's really more about getting the most out of what you have rather than always necessarily running out and buying new stuff.
And it seems like the emergence of sales operations and marketing operations is becoming more and more important. Are you seeing enough clients having that role defined as opposed to just the end users of the products trying to cobble them together?
Absolutely. Most of our clients, I would say, have those functions, but those functions have a lot on their plate beyond just the technology and sales infrastructure that they're looking after. When you think about measurement and reporting, that's a lot of their jobs as well. So I think it's not necessarily only in their hands to make technology successful, but it definitely is going a long way in helping companies to understand where to purchase and have a common set of people that can help to further that cause. So we do have a lot of clients in those groups, and they're ones that we work closely with when it comes to both the infrastructure side, but then also the planning and reporting that those teams do as well.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about the conference and what will people be getting out of it?
Well, we're just a few weeks away now, so we're really busy right now when it comes to dotting the T's and crossing the I's, but we're really excited about it. We're in Las Vegas again this year. There's a lot of great new main stage content that a lot of my colleagues are very excited about. So we have a great session that'll be on artificial intelligence and the revenue engine. I have a feeling a lot of vendors are going to like to see that because that'll really be about what capabilities are required. Because AI isn't necessarily just a category of technology you purchase. Artificial intelligence is being infused into all these technology categories. So I think that'll be an interesting session. There'll be one about the brand and customer experience, as well as marketing and sales planning, actually doing it together rather than working off in separate teams and smushing it at the end. But one of the things that we heard, I would say, very loud and clear over the past few years from our delegates is that they really want to hear from their peers as well. So as fabulous as it is to have all of us analysts on stage, they also want to hear from people who have had success. They want to hear directly from people who are in their shoes and have faced their challenges. So we have a lot of clients that'll be taking the stage with us. We have some that will be receiving awards. So we have ROI award winners, we have Program of the Year award winners, but actually in a lot of our track sessions and actually in every single technology infrastructure session that we have clients coming on stage to talk about the journey that they've been on, what's worked, what's not, and what they're going to be focusing on in the future. And I think that adds a unique element to our conference for people, is really getting to hear directly from people who are on the same journey as them. And I can honestly say when our sessions end, we don't do Q&A usually during our sessions, but everyone usually has a lot of questions afterwards. And I know when our clients come off stage, they feel like celebrities when they have a lot of their peers coming up to them and asking for their cards and asking to spend more time with them to share ideas together.
Because there is this kind of sense that nobody is really comfortable anymore. Is there? Things are changing so fast, and the pressure, and it's so easy to create companies today, but yet so hard to get mind share and attention and to be able to communicate. That I think a lot of marketers are just lost. Is that the feeling that you're getting?
Yeah, a lot of people feel lost, but I think the people who are in those shoes are also invigorated by that type of challenge. So I think while we all have those moments of being overwhelmed and worrying, I think we have to let those feelings go at times and then just focus on how you can use that to energize yourself. And I think really that's the good part of the conference, is that there isn't a lot of false pretenses about what's going on in the market. We don't pretend to say that any of the people who might be receiving awards or not receiving awards have it all figured out. We try to make it more of a safe space for people to talk about what's working and what's not, because we know all the analysts at Sirusdecisions were practitioners before. And I know that isn't the type of content I would want to consume. I'd be calling BS on it. So we try not to put that type of content forward, and we try to make it very engaging and also relatable and practical for people.
And what is the outcome that people will get from the conference?
So we have our conference in May, and then it's full steam ahead right afterwards. Basically, our amazing account support and customer success teams basically get inundated after the event when it comes to follow-up calls that they want to have with analysts about the research they want to review that gets published out of the event. So it really comes back to that cycle that I talked about hearing from the clients about what they want to achieve based on what they heard, the challenges they think they'll have, and then setting up that cadence of work with them to make sure that they understand how to get there and we can help them navigate any challenges they have. But I have to say the analysts take a big sigh of relief at the end of the event. It comes not too far before Memorial Day, so there tends to be a little bit of a downtime as everyone decompresses. But our sales and account management team definitely get a flood of calls right after Summit, and then we pick it all back up again a few weeks later.
Cool. Hey, I really appreciate your time today. Where do people go to learn more about the conference, what you're doing, and how to work with Sirusdecisions? So
people can head over to Sirusdecisions.com, and then the website for the summit is SirusDecisionsSummit.com, but you can navigate there from our company homepage as well.
Hey, so I hope to see everybody out there in Las Vegas at the conference coming up on the 8th of May. And also, I've been talking to a lot of marketing leaders, a lot of CMOs about new ways of creating content that engages their target audience using a combination of ABM and content development to get into their best accounts, their ideal profile accounts. Instead of just advertising with them or to them, why not engage them and what they care about? So I've done this with a couple companies. It's called Start the Conversation, Get in the Meeting. It's a course that's been used by mostly sales development reps, but a lot of enterprise reps trying to get into those cold opportunities. These are people who don't know you, don't know the problem that you solve, aren't aware of you. They're the people you want to get, but they're not in market yet. They don't recognize the problem. It's really how to build that pipeline. So that course is out now. If you're a marketing leader and you want to talk about it, I've got a link on my website, b2brevenue.com. Just hit training, and there's a link to say schedule a brief call to see if it matches what you want to do. Just pick a 15-minute time slot, and we'll get on the phone and see if it's a match. If it is, great. If it isn't, that's fine. We'll just move on. Also, on my website, there's a free ebook on how large companies make product selections. I spent 30 years doing this, and I was always amazed at the mismatch between how companies sell and market versus how companies actually buy and select products. And I share that with you. It's free. It's a real book. It's not just, a bunch of pictures and infographics. It's a good 40 pages of pure gold, as I'd like to say. That's it. Make sure your sales reps are checking out the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast, as well as the Sales Questions podcast, and connect up with me on LinkedIn. And really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.